The ground trembled under the weight of something massive moving in the distance. Clouds shifted unnaturally as shadows passed over the quiet valley. No birds flew, no wind whispered. Nature itself seemed to hold its breath. Lieutenant Jackson Cole tightened the strap on his exosuit and scanned the valley through his HUD visor. His squad was already in formation, silent and tense. None of them had seen what destroyed Outpost Theta, but whatever it was had left only scorched craters and melted steel behind. The war had started 3 days ago. Without warning, the skies over Earth opened and bright streaks of light fell down like shooting stars. At first, people thought it was a meteor shower. Then cities vanished under thunder without sound. The invaders didn't speak. They didn't explain. They just started tearing everything apart. Command called them size shifters. Tall as buildings in one moment, thin as needles in the next. Their shapes twisted in ways human minds couldn't fully process. But worst of all, they seemed to be searching for something or someone. Jackson had been deployed with Bravo team to retrieve a fallen satellite. Its black box had captured footage of one of the size shifters changing shape midair. The footage glitched and distorted, but one frame was clear. A female figure glowing with unstable energy, screaming in what looked like pain. "We're not here to fight," Commander Reyes reminded the team through their comms. "We're here to grab that box and get out. Don't engage unless you have to." But even she sounded unsure. The team had seen what these aliens could do to tanks, to buildings, to entire forests. As they crept into the valley, they passed the remains of the satellite. The metal was bent. Like paper, its circuits burnt and humming with static. Jackson picked up the core, slid it into his armored pack, and gave the signal to pull back. That's when the hills across from them rose like a giant breathing mound. A creature stood up, unfolded. Her body shimmered between forms, sometimes tall like a tower, other times wide like a wall. Her face was partly human, partly monstrous. Glowing veins of green pulsed across her skin. Her eyes were not angry. They were confused. Jackson didn't raise his weapon. Neither did the rest of the squad. Something about her made it impossible to shoot. She looked down at them, tried to speak, but her voice shattered the comms with static and pain. Then she clutched her head and stumbled backward. The squad retreated into the nearby woods as the creature thrashed. She didn't attack. She seemed scared of herself. The trees bent away from her body as her form ballooned again, this time bursting into a hulking shape that knocked boulders aside like toys. "Command, we've got eyes on a Class Red," Reyes said through the crackling signal. "She's unstable." Repeating, "The target is unstable. She hasn't attacked." There was no reply, just silence, and then static turned to whispers. A voice none of them recognized hissed through the speakers. "She can't hold form. She's collapsing again. She needs a stabilizer." The voice was human, but there was no ID tag. No name, just a soft tone filled with concern. Then it vanished as quickly as it came. Jackson looked up and saw something falling from the sky, a small pod no bigger than a trash bin. It landed nearby with a dull thud. Smoke rose from the broken pod. A small figure crawled out. Not alien, not armored. Just a man in a flight suit, barely alive. His skin was burnt, his hands shaking. But he stood up and looked straight at the giant creature with calm eyes. He walked toward her like he knew her. Everyone else stood frozen as his tiny figure approached the shifting titan. She saw him and stopped moving. Her body began shrinking. Just a little, like a flicker of memory brought her back. Jackson whispered, "Who is he?" But no one had the answer. The ground stopped shaking. The wind returned. And the towering alien girl knelt slowly, her glowing eyes locked onto the small man, who now stood just inches from her massive foot. She spoke again, but this time it didn't hurt. It was quiet. "You came, you remembered." And with that, her enormous shape began to collapse inward, not in pain, but in relief. like she was letting go of the size she no longer needed. All because of a human no bigger than her fingertip. The giant girl's body folded in on itself, shrinking slowly as if gravity was helping her return to something normal. Her massive arms turned slender, her glowing veins dimmed. The sharp edges of her back dissolved like sand in the wind. The man stood calmly in front of her, arms hanging loosely by his sides. He didn't speak. He didn't run. His chest moved slowly, as if even breathing too hard might break the moment. He kept his eyes on her face as she kept shrinking. Jackson had never seen anything like it. None of them had. These size shifters had destroyed entire battalions without slowing down. But this one was different. She had stopped. She had spoken. She had recognized the man who fell from the sky. Reyes gave a silent signal to hold position. No one moved. The squad waited as the alien girl slowly reached the size of a transport ship, then a dropship, then finally a tall human. Her body shimmered, still unstable, but now she looked more like a person than a weapon. She knelt before the man and placed one large hand on the ground beside him. Her voice was soft, shaking. "You said you would return. I waited. I broke. I grew because I was scared." She looked like she wanted to cry, but her eyes were dry. Jackson stepped forward cautiously, keeping his weapon low. "Sir, who are you?" he asked. The man turned slowly and gave a weak smile. His skin was pale and marked with old scars. His flight suit was patched, like it had been repaired 100 times. "I was part of the Ark project," he said. "We were supposed to make contact, learn, and come back. But something went wrong. The others died. I didn't. She found me." He looked at the alien girl and nodded. "And she kept me alive." The girl looked ashamed. "I broke the limits. I grew to protect you. Then you disappeared. They tried to take me, to cut me apart. So I kept growing. But I couldn't stop." Her fingers curled into the dirt beside him. "I hurt them. I didn't mean to." Jackson exchanged a glance with Reyes. "Sir, what's your name?" The man took a slow breath and said, "Micah." Then he sat on the ground like his legs had finally given out. "And she's not a monster." She was scared. Just like I was. The forest around them was still. No more thunder. No more flickering lights. The giant girl, now just a tall woman, breathed deeply and touched her chest with both hands. "The growth stopped when you came close. Your presence, your weight, it balances me." One of the techs moved closer with the scanner. The readings were impossible. Her body mass was still unstable. But near Micah, it pulsed gently instead of spiking. It was as if he gave her form by simply being near. Like his energy told her what size to be. "Why him?" Reyes asked. "Why does he help?" "You shrink?" The alien girl closed her eyes. "His body is small, but it is steady. When I'm near him, I remember who I am. Not just what I can become." Her voice shook but didn't rise. "He is my anchor." Suddenly, a warning flashed in Jackson's visor. A strike fleet was approaching fast. 6 ships. Heavy artillery. Command must have detected her energy signature again. They were coming in hot and ready to fire. Micah stood quickly and raised both hands. "You have to call them off. She's stable now. She doesn't want to fight. If they attack, she lose control again. I've seen it before." His voice was loud and urgent. "They'll force her to grow again." Reyes cursed under her breath and opened the long-range channel. "Command, this is Commander Reyes, Bravo team. Target is stabilized. Repeat, target is no longer hostile. Human interaction has reduced her size and aggression. Do not engage." But the reply from command was sharp. "You are ordered to evacuate. Strike will commence in 60 seconds. Clear the zone." Then the signal cut. The air above them began to shimmer with incoming fire. The alien girl's eyes widened in panic. She stepped back and looked at the sky. "They're going to burn me again." I can't control it if they do. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I will if I grow. Micah turned to her and grabbed her hand. His fingers were tiny against hers, but the contact mattered. Then don't grow. Stay with me. Focus on my voice. I'll help you hold your form. The moment his hand touched hers, her body pulsed again. Not growing, not shrinking. Just steady. Her glow dimmed. Her chest rose and fell like a normal breath. Her form began to settle once more into something close to human. But the sky was already burning as the strike fleet descended. The first blast lit up the clouds like fire in the sky. The strike fleet had no hesitation. Even from the ground, the roar of their weapons sounded like a mountain cracking apart. The air shimmered with heat and dust as missiles dropped toward the valley. Reyes screamed into her comms, trying to cancel the strike. Her voice was lost in the static. The command had made its choice. They believed the alien girl was still a threat, and nothing she said could change it now. Micah didn't flinch. He stayed in front of the girl, gripping her hand tightly. "Stay with me," he said calmly. "Don't grow, don't panic. You are not alone." His voice was soft but firm. His face looked tired, but not afraid. The alien girl shut her glowing eyes and pressed her forehead to Micah's. Her form shimmered, flickered, almost broke. Then it held. The energy around her body turned a soft blue instead of wild green. She was trying to remain stable. Jackson watched all of it unfold and shouted to the others. "Form a shield around them. Use your suits. Buy them time." The squad moved without question. They created a circle, standing between the girl and the incoming fire. The first missile hit the edge of the valley. Dirt and flame shot high into the air. The blast wave knocked trees flat and sent birds fleeing in every direction. The shockwave hit the squad hard, but they held their ground. The girl let out a cry, low and strained. Her form swelled for a second, then snapped back. Micah's hand on hers began to glow faintly, as if his touch was anchoring her to a smaller shape. He kept whispering, never stopping, never letting go. Another missile struck nearby. The team's shields held, but barely. Warnings flashed in every visor, heat rising. Pressure unstable. They wouldn't survive another hit at this distance unless something changed. Reyes pulled out a signal flare and fired it into the air. It exploded with a bright red flash. "This is Bravo Team," she shouted to the sky. "Cease fire. Non-hostile." "Confirmed. You're going to make her grow again. Cancel the strike now." There was silence for a moment. Then a new voice came through the comms. "This is Fleet Captain Cerro. We are tracking your signal. Stand by." The missiles stopped. Falling, the sky quieted. The air was still thick with smoke, but the attack had paused. The alien girl opened her eyes slowly. Her body no longer shook. Her form remained at a stable size, tall but not dangerous. She looked down at Micah with deep relief and touched his shoulder gently. "I felt it," she whispered. "The pressure, the fear. It wanted me to grow. But your hand, your voice, it told me to stay small." She sat down slowly on the broken earth, her breath steady and her glow faint. Jackson approached carefully. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded without speaking. Her eyes were wet, shining with emotion. For the first time she looked like someone just trying to survive, not something made to destroy. Fleet dropships arrived minutes later. They hovered overhead, weapons charged but not firing. From one of the crafts, a captain descended with 2 guards. His armor was polished, his face unreadable. He looked at Micah first. "You're supposed to be dead." Then he turned to the alien girl. "And you're the reason for half our losses. Tell me why I shouldn't order another strike right now." Micah stepped between them again, because she didn't start this. She never asked for war. She was scared, hunted, and alone. Her body responds to stress by growing. The more you attacked, the more she changed. She never wanted to fight. The captain frowned. We lost lives, cities, ships, and you're asking me to believe it was all an accident? His voice was hard, cold, and doubtful. His hand hovered. Near his sidearm, fingers twitching, the girl stood up slowly. She raised her hands in surrender and said nothing. Her head was lowered, her glow dimmed to barely visible light. The message was clear. She wouldn't resist, even if they hurt her. Micah turned to her. Don't grow. Even if they hurt you, don't change. I'll be here. I won't leave again. He placed a hand on her arm. Her skin was warm, her form still stable. The connection between them was holding. The captain watched them for a moment longer, then sighed. We're taking her to containment. You can come with us, Micah, but if she changes again, we'll end her right there. His tone was final. He gave the order. And the ships began to descend. The alien girl looked once more at the valley, at the damage, at the smoke rising into the clouds. Then she stepped forward slowly, choosing not to fight, not to run, but to trust the small human who had helped her shrink. Asterisk, the containment chamber was colder than it needed to be. The walls were smooth steel, covered in layers of dampening tech. Energy barriers pulsed at the corners, ready to snap shut if her form began to shift. Cameras blinked from every direction. The alien girl stood still at the center. Her arms were folded in front of her, her head slightly bowed. She had not spoken since they landed. Her glow had faded to almost nothing. She looked tired but calm, like she had accepted what was coming. Micah sat just outside the barrier, close enough that she could see him through the clear wall. He had refused medical treatment until they confirmed she was safe. His voice was low and constant, telling her stories, reminding her of the time they spent on the Ark station. They thought we wouldn't survive, he said. They told us it was impossible to befriend a race that changed shape with emotion. But we tried anyway. You were the first to speak. You were the one who reached out when the others hid. The girl looked up for a moment, her eyes reflecting the faint blue of the barrier. I tried to hold form for you, but when you vanished, I thought I had failed. I thought you were gone because of me. So I grew until no one could hurt me again. Fleet Captain Cerro watched the exchange from the other side of the control room. He said nothing at first, only stared at the monitor with narrowed eyes. She has the power to wipe out entire cities. I don't care if she feels sorry. I care if she can stop herself. Rhea stood beside him, arms crossed. She has 3 times. She held her shape even under direct attack. That's more control than we expected. And Micah's presence stabilizes her. We have proof of that now. Cerro turned toward her. If she's stable, then why is she still in a cage? His tone was sharp. Reyes didn't answer right away. She glanced at the screen again, watching the girl trace shapes into the floor. With her finger, circles, spirals, soft patterns, Micah continued speaking. Do you remember the garden we built on Deck 7? Used to shape the vines into birds. It made the others laugh. You didn't even know what birds were. You just liked the idea of something that could fly and still be gentle. The girl let out a soft breath. Her posture relaxed slightly. She looked toward Micah, and for the first time she smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't forced. It was quiet and unsure, but it was real. A human smile on an alien face. The control room lights blinked red for a second. A signal. Something had entered the system. Cerro stepped forward. What is that? He asked. A text scrambled at the console. Unknown input. It's not from Earth. It's coming from deep orbit. The speakers crackled, and then a voice filled the chamber. Smooth. Cold. Not human. Return the shifter. She is property of the Unity Core. You have 10 cycles to comply or face planetary reduction. The message ended without explanation. The alien girl flinched. Her body pulsed once with faint green light, then settled again. They found me, she said softly. They used to control our growth. They punish those who break shape. They'll come for all of you if I don't go back. Micah stood up, his hand against the barrier. You're not their property. You're not a weapon. You're a person. They don't get to decide your size, your shape, or your fate. His voice was firm and shaking with emotion. We'll protect you. Cerro looked toward Reyes. Well, Commander, do you want to protect your new friend at the cost of Earth? Reyes stared at the screen, then said quietly, I want to protect what's right. And what they just said doesn't sound like peace. The alien girl stepped forward and placed both hands on the barrier. Her palms shimmered with blue light. If I stay, they'll come. They'll destroy everything. I should leave. They fear what I've become. Micah looked her in the eyes. You've become someone worth standing with. Let them come. We've faced worse than words. We'll show them what a human and a size shifter can do together. The room fell silent again. Outside the station, the stars flickered. Unseen ships moved through the darkness, engines quiet, weapons charged. But inside, the cold steel walls, something stronger than fear was beginning to grow between them. Fleet alarms rang through the station like sharp knives cutting the silence. Red lights flashed along every hallway. Crew members ran to their posts, weapons powered up. Shields crackled into place as the orbital systems locked onto multiple approaching vessels. The Unity Core had arrived. Dozens of alien ships glided out from behind the moon. Their design was sharp and cold, with bodies like silver blades and engines that made no sound. They didn't ask twice. They didn't wait. They launched probes toward Earth's orbit without hesitation. Captain Cerro barked orders while pacing across the command deck. Keep shields high. No one fires unless I say so. Hit me a secure channel. I want to speak to their leader directly. The crew worked fast, fingers flying across screens and panels. Inside the containment room, Micah stared at the alien girl through the barrier. It's happening, he said. They're trying to take you back. His voice shook with concern. But you're not going anywhere without a choice. The girl stepped back from the wall. Her form shimmered again, but this time it didn't grow wild. It stayed close to human. She clenched her fists and whispered something in her own language. The translation device failed to capture it, but the sadness was clear. I was made for them, she said in a low voice. They trained me to grow, to bend, to become anything they needed, but I never wanted to hurt others. I just didn't know how to stop. Micah pressed his hand to the barrier. Then let us teach you. Let us stand beside you. Don't face them alone this time. They want fear. We'll give them unity instead. Suddenly the lights in the room dimmed. The barrier between them dropped with a loud click. A voice came over the speaker. Protocol override. Temporary release granted. She is now under direct observation. 2 soldiers entered the chamber, tense and alert. They didn't raise their weapons, but their fingers hovered close to the triggers. You've got 5 minutes, one said. Then she returns to secure hold unless ordered otherwise. The alien girl stepped out slowly. She didn't run. She didn't grow. She just walked to Micah's side and looked around the room with tired eyes. She had expected fear in there. Faces, but saw only curiosity and caution. Captain Cerro entered behind them. His expression was unreadable. We've received a direct message from the Corps, he said. They demand you return. They claim you are unstable and dangerous. They say if we refuse, Earth becomes their test site. The girl tilted her head. Do they always destroy what they cannot control? She asked. Cerro didn't answer. Micah did. Yes, but they haven't met all of us yet. Cerro gave a long look at both of them, then sighed. I don't like being threatened. If you want to face them, you'll need more than just courage. You'll need control. Can you guarantee you won't lose shape? She nodded. If Micah is near, I can stay steady. His presence grounds my form. My growth responds to emotion. When I am calm, I stay small. The captain pointed to the main screen. Then get calm fast. Because they're hailing us again. And this time, they want you to answer directly. Moments later, the alien girl stood at the center of the bridge. The crew watched as her figure stood tall but stable. Micah stood beside her, his hand lightly resting against her arm. The signal. Connected. A glowing figure appeared on the screen. It was one of the Unity core leaders. Its face had no eyes, no mouth. Just a mask of metal with a soft hum behind it. The voice that came from it was mechanical and smooth. You are in violation of containment protocol. Return or be reduced. The girl didn't flinch. She stepped forward. Her voice was firm. I am not your tool. I am not your weapon. I will not return. I am not afraid of what I've become. The figure on the screen paused. You cannot hold your form without assistance. That proves you are flawed. Release is not an option. Destruction begins now. Outside the station, the lead ship charged its primary weapon. The energy spike was visible from space. Earth's defense grid blinked online, preparing for countermeasures. The countdown had begun. Micah looked up at her. You don't have to fight like them. You can end this another way. She closed her eyes and whispered something again, not to him, but to herself. Then she opened them, glowing softly, and stepped forward with peace in her voice and power under her skin. Asterisk, the core's weapon charged brighter than the stars around it. Energy waves rippled through the void of space, signaling their readiness to strike. Earth's defenses locked onto the ship, but everyone knew they were outmatched. The alien girl stood tall and calm on the bridge. She was glowing again, but the color had changed, no longer wild green or shaky blue. It was golden now, soft and warm. Her chest rose and fell slowly, as if her body had finally found peace. Micah kept his hand on her shoulder. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply stayed close, and that seemed to be enough. The girl's form held steady, even as pressure built all around her. Fleet Captain Cerro narrowed his eyes at the screen. They're bluffing, he said. They think we'll hand her over to save ourselves. But she's not theirs to take anymore. The crew looked tense, but no one spoke. Against him, the Unity leader repeated the warning. Return the unstable subject or face full disintegration. Its metal face stayed expressionless. Its voice was still calm. But behind that stillness was deadly intent. The girl stepped closer to the screen. I was unstable because of fear. Because of pain. You built us that way. So we could be shaped, controlled, and used. But now I am more than your tool. The Unity figure tilted its head slightly. Emotion is weakness. Fear keeps growth in balance. Your independence is failure of purpose. Final countdown initiated. Micah glanced toward the fleet monitors. We don't have much time. Are you sure you can hold your size if they attack? She nodded, though her fingers curled tightly. Yes, I don't want to hurt anyone again. But if they strike, I will defend. Captain Cerro gave a sharp command. All ships, prepare counterfire. Defend the station. Do not let Earth fall. Protect the shifter at all costs. Red alarms lit the entire fleet as weapons charged and shields flared into place. Then something unexpected happened. The alien girl walked to the center of the bridge, took a deep breath, and placed both hands on the cold metal floor. Light flowed from her fingers into the panels like water spreading across ice. Wait, Micah said, confused. What are you doing? She looked up at him and smiled gently. I'm not just stabilizing my form, I'm sending a signal. Not of war. Of change. All across the station, lights flickered. Energy readings spiked and then dropped. The Unity fleet paused for a moment, reading the sudden wave that pulsed from her body. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't coded as a weapon. It was something entirely new. She stood slowly. They will feel it now, the others like me. They're out there, hidden, waiting, afraid to change. My signal will tell them it's safe to hold form without fear, that they don't need pain to control. Their size, Micah's eyes widened. You're calling others? You think there are more like you? She nodded. I know there are. They were made like me. But many broke, many vanished. If they feel me now, they might wake up. They might come. The Unity ship flashed red. The leader spoke once more. Signal breach detected. Origin of pulse. Identified. Termination confirmed. The weapon charged fully. The countdown reached its final seconds. Micah turned to the crew. If they fire, we need to intercept. Divert all energy to forward shields, Cero gave the nod. The crew responded. Instantly. The room was filled with pressure and humming power. Outside, just as the Unity ship prepared to release its weapon, a ripple spread through space. One by one, tiny blue lights appeared near the station. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Faint glowing. Figures emerged from those lights. Psi shifters. Not just one. Not 10, but an entire hidden fleet. Some were large. Some small. All of them glowed with the same golden energy the girl now carried. They surrounded the Unity ship without firing a shot. The Unity leader's face finally changed. The hum behind its voice cracked. Impossible. They were all contained. They cannot respond. They should not be able to hold shape independently. The alien girl stepped forward and said clearly, "They are free now. And they remember what you did. You controlled us with fear. But now we are steady because we choose to be. We are done hiding." The Unity ship began to retreat. Its weapon shut down. Its lights dimmed. Without speaking again, it vanished into fold space. The sky was calm once more. The fleet relaxed. The alarms stopped. The girl turned to Micah, tears in her golden eyes. "They heard me. I wasn't alone." "Not anymore." The silence in space felt heavier than the explosions that came before. No one on the station moved. No one spoke. They all stared at the sky where the Unity ship had vanished. The golden lights from the awakened shifters floated calmly in orbit. Inside the command bridge, Captain Cero lowered his weapon and looked around the room. The battle had ended before it began, not with guns, not with blood, but with a signal of peace from the very being they had once feared. Micah leaned against the wall, his body still recovering from stress and injury. He kept his eyes on her. The girl who once towered over cities now stood calm, her form still glowing gently, but not shaking. She hadn't lost control once. The other shifters remained outside the station. They hovered without touching the hull. Some looked more alien than others. Some had smooth human forms. Others looked like animals or shadows or statues. All of them remained still. The alien girl reached out with one hand and closed her eyes. "They're confused," she said. "They don't know what to do now. They've spent their lives running, hiding, breaking apart under pressure. But they feel me. They feel balance." Micah stepped closer to her. "You gave them hope," he said. "You showed them a new way to live, not as weapons, not as threats, but as people with a choice." He paused and added, "They're waiting for your next step." Cero walked over and crossed his arms. "So what now?" he asked. "We let hundreds of shifters just float above Earth? What if they lose control again? What if they turn like the first ones we faced?" The girl turned to face him. Her golden glow dimmed slightly. "Then we teach them," she said, "just like Micah taught me. We form a link, one shifter to one human. We pair strength with stillness. That's how we stay small. That's how we stay safe." The room went quiet again. No one had expected her to offer a solution. No one had even believed peace was possible until today. And now she stood there asking for trust. Not just for herself, but for an entire species of once feared giants. Rhea stepped forward slowly. "We'll need protocols," she said. "Training, communication systems, Safe zones for adjustment. If we do this, it has to be together. Equal. Responsibility. No chains. No cages. Micah smiled at her words. That's the only way it works, he said. It's not about forcing them into a shape. It's about giving them space to find one they can hold, not through fear. Through trust. Captain Sero gave a slow nod. Then we begin with one. She stays here, the rest remain in orbit. We establish a stable zone and test her method. If it works, we expand. He pointed toward the sky. But if any lose control, the agreement ends. The alien girl accepted the terms with a simple nod. Fair, she said. We will not hide. But we will earn your trust. We know what we've done. We know what we must become. Micah looked at her as the glow around her skin faded to almost nothing. She wasn't shrinking or shifting now. She wasn't afraid. She looked completely at peace. For the first time, she looked truly human. Do you think the others will follow your lead? He asked. She replied softly, not all at once. But one by one, they will see. When they feel calm, when they feel connection, when they feel safe. Then they will try. From orbit, one of the shifters began to descend. It moved slowly, carefully. Its shape adjusted mid-air. It shrank from a shadowy form to a tall humanoid. When it landed on the outer deck, it didn't speak. It simply knelt and placed one hand against the ground. A young human engineer approached it cautiously. The shifter looked up and tilted its head. No violence. No aggression. Just curiosity. The two touched palms. The engineer didn't pull away. He smiled. Micah and the alien girl watched the scene unfold. It's working, he whispered. One. At a time, they're choosing peace. Not because we forced them, but because someone showed them how. She leaned against him gently, just enough to feel his presence. Her golden eyes blinked slowly, steady and clear. This is just the beginning. We can't undo the past, but we can shape what comes next. The sun rose over Earth's horizon, painting the clouds gold and red. For the first time in weeks, no warnings filled the fleet's comms. No weapons were drawn. No alarms screamed across the station walls. Just silence and light. From the observation deck, Micah stood with the alien girl beside him. They looked down at the planet below, watching its slow spin beneath their feet. She placed her hand on the window, as if trying to feel the world through the glass. Ships still circled above Earth, but they no longer aimed their weapons. The Unity core had not returned. Their retreat had left behind a quiet space where something new had begun. Something fragile but real. More psi shifters had arrived since the signal. Some had trouble holding form. Some flickered between shapes like broken signals. But none had attacked. All had landed with care, moving slowly and staying. Close to assigned partners, the human shifter program had started as an idea. Now it had become real. With each new pairing, more trust was built. Each time a human reached out without fear, the alien they touched grew steadier and calmer. Some humans struggled. Not everyone trusted the creatures who had once brought destruction. But many stepped forward, willing to try, willing to understand. The memory of war was strong, but the chance for peace was stronger. The alien girl stood as a symbol of that peace. Her name, once unspoken, was now known across both species. She called herself Kari, which meant shape of hope in her native tongue. People whispered it with respect. Kari had not grown in days. Her body remained steady. She walked among the station crew, helping new shifters find balance. She taught them what Micah had taught her, that calm could hold them. That fear did not have to rule. Micah stayed by her side always. He was her anchor. But more than that, he was her partner. They worked as a team, facing questions, guiding nervous diplomats, and managing the slow rebuilding of trust. Captain Sero watched their efforts from the command deck. He had doubted them once, Now he stood behind them. His voice had become one of support, though it still carried the strength of command. "Don't get comfortable," he warned often. Pieces work. Reyes took charge of training. She built the guidelines, oversaw the pairings, and created safe environments for shifters to practice holding form. She no longer saw Kari as a threat. She saw her as a teacher. One day, as Kari sat by the station's central garden, a young shifter approached. The child's shape was barely formed, its limbs long and thin, its face shifting too fast to hold. It trembled with every breath, scared to speak. Kari reached out gently and smiled. "You're not broken," she said. "You're just new. Take your time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay." The child nodded and placed its small hand in hers. The trembling slowed, the glow calmed. Its face began to take form, not perfect but real, not forced but chosen. It sat beside her without words. Micah watched from a distance, his heart full. He had started this with one touch, one connection. He had risked everything to help a being no one else would trust. And now, that being had helped save the world. Kari looked up and saw him. She waved him over. When he joined her, she leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. "Do you remember when you first found me?" she asked. "I was so large I could barely see you." He laughed softly. "And now you're small enough to steal my seat," he said. She grinned. "I'm not stealing. I'm sharing." The two of them sat in silence, surrounded by quiet laughter, soft lights, and the hum of growing life. Around them, humans and shifters moved together. Some worked. Some played. Some just sat and breathed without fear. The stars outside the station blinked in the distance. Unity ships were gone. The old fear had not vanished, but it no longer ruled. Something new had taken root, not perfect, not easy, but real. Kari closed her eyes and whispered, "I am whole. And I am home."